Hello and welcome to Gamesline's anime podcast, Unlimited Railworks. I'm John. Rose is not here this time. She's hanging out with women of a sort, I suppose.
Rose is too busy doing 100 girlfriends who really, really love you in real life.
Pretty much. So, it's us this time. I'm here. I'm hosting, John. And yes, you just heard Maverick. Maverick is here. Hello, Maverick.
Hello.
And Elvie, you are also here.
I'm also here.
And I'm glad to have both of you on, especially because we're going to be talking about a show about a woman.
That's right.
called Fujiko Mine. Because that's what we watched. We watched Lupin III, The Woman Called Fujiko Mine. I am excited to talk about this because I like Lupin a lot, but I'm also like a relatively recent convert. So I have only seen a little bit of it. So it was good to see something that I know a lot of people like love a lot. Like a lot of people consider it to be one of the better Lupin things. And it is also the first series that is that was directed by a woman, and that it was about a character who wasn't Lupin. Like it's focused on Fujiko is in the other shows, obviously, but this is the first time that it was like, no, this is about Fujiko. This is a story not just about Lupin, and Fujiko's there. This was directed by Sayo Yamamoto, who also directed Michiko and Hachin, and went on to do Yuri on Ice afterwards. So that's another show that we watched back in the day. It was also written by Mario Kata, who has written a lot of stuff. A whole lot of stuff. Some of the big things, I suppose. Here, let me try to pick and choose. I mean, yeah, she did the O Maidens in Your Savage season manga. But just for example, she wrote some episodes of Rose and Maiden, some episodes of the Fate Stay Night anime, Aria. Hey, she did some episodes of Hamtaro. I've been thinking a lot about Hamtaro lately, I'll tell you that much.
Like, how can you not? Anohana's like her biggest one, I think.
Oh my god, and she did Anohana?
Yeah, she did a bunch of stuff for Anohana. She isn't the main, but she has written for Anohana, and I think that was kind of the one that really put her on the map, I guess, to get her connections to do the more recent stuff she's done, right? Like Makia, I've never seen that still. Whatever, like, yeah, all this original animated film stuff that I've yet to see.
Yeah, I was kind of starting at the top,
yeah.
And that was like when she was just kind of, I guess, like doing episodes here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like she like was the series composer for like Black Rock Shooter, and and Anohana, AKB 0048, Gourmet Girl Graffiti. You all remember that?
A very divisive one.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, she's done a lot of good, a lot of bad, I suppose.
A very broad career. Like, none of these shows are similar to each other at all. None of them are the same genre, and that's like fine.
Not at all. I mean, that is honestly the cool thing. Is like this is extremely spread out. Like her work is just all over the place, and that's impressive for a writer, no matter what. So, this is also a much more mature, adult-oriented take on Lupin III. There is full-on merkin folks, and you get to see boobies quite often in this show. But I think it's handled very well. and I think it's a pretty cool show. But I would like to hear from you all. I would like to hear from the woman called Elvie about her.
You're
take
right. I'm
on...
like the only woman in the room right now, so I feel like I have to like carry a weight to make sure.
I don't mean to do it like that. I know that you.
It's totally fine.
I know that you watched this previously.
I have watched it previously. I've watched it like once previously. Not around when it came out. When it came out, I was in high school. But that said, not right. Again, I keep talking and joking about like I've seen Alpha and Lita like at an age I shouldn't have, as most people have.
Yeah.
But I definitely did not see this when this came out. I think I remember it not being talked about a lot. I feel like again like what came out around 2012, a lot of stuff probably like that overshadowed this, unfortunately. And I feel like a lot of people that were talking about this when it came out were kind of more on the critic side of things. Like people like like I'll say it off the bat, yeah, it's an amazing, beautiful, artistic interpretation of like Lupin, these characters in a very different way, very stylish. It's very consistent. I really love the very kind of heavy manga comic book feel where there's like all these very strong contour lines, like in places of shadow and gradient. Like the show like puts all this etching and line work to emphasize where shadow is. To give it this very poppy feel, even though it's very ambiguous and anachronistic over, the Lupin whole franchise, right? As John, you would know way more. Like it's very episodic. It's very loose. There's very little continuity. If there is, like, it's just kind of thrown all over the place. Like these characters are kind of timeless and ageless in a lot of ways, and it kind of, and there's a little bit of like, references back and forth, but right, they have that whole thing where like the different jacket colors of Lupin, for instance, like people are like, I don't know, there's like a chronology to and some sort of system in place that people like to
all the different like jacket colors and stuff. That's more just like the teams,
the creator,
the eras.
Like, oh, I like this writer better, or like this is like I like this particular writer or directing team, but for sure, like
which the more current episodes, again, something that I wanted to highlight, which I don't mean to take your time.
No,
but
go
just
for it.
something that as someone who got into Lupin with Part 4, watching this show after also having watched some of Part 1, like not a ton. I watched like 3 or 4 episodes of it. I definitely want to keep going, but like the original episodes of Lupin that I have seen, Fujiko was there, and they were, like, very much trying to be like, oh, yeah, no, she's the femme fatale who can handle herself, but she's also pretty much just constantly getting, like, kidnapped and, like, all
she's
that
still
stuff.
A damsel,
like,
yep.
Yeah, she's absolutely still a damsel. Like, she has her moments where she's able to, do something cool, but at the end of the day, it is still, like, that very specific type of a female character written. But, like, seeing what they do in this show, where they immediately, like, play with that and have Fujiko be this character who is, far more in control of her sexuality, and then also is very much in control of the situation in general. Like, she's got everyone wrapped around her finger, like, no matter what. And at the same time, they also take the time to show weakness in her, like confusion and fear, and her rising above that.
Right.
And that's like making her a far more fleshed out character than ever before, I feel like. And then having seen parts 4 and 5, it's so apparent that they just have from now on based Fujiko off of this. Like,
right.
She is her from The Woman Called Fujiko Mine for like the rest of time, because they just took that character and melded it into like the exact version that she will forever be now, because they just figured it out. They're like, okay, this is the exact amount of like in control of her sexuality and smartness and being a rival to Lupin, while also like being a lover and being someone who cares about other people at times, while also just trying to get ahead for herself. Like, just all these layers. It made her a far better character I think, and like that's just what I love about this show. You know, like I just love that they were able to like reform this character from something very simple and, you know, pretty cliche into, you know, I think a character that like absolutely stands up with the rest of the Lupin crew, because you know, yeah, like I think about all the fun episodes that Fujiko's in and the future parts and all that, and all the fun episodes in this too. Like, yeah, there's some really good, just like fun episodes too. And again, something else you mentioned about how you know, Lupin is very like episodic.
Yeah.
In parts 4 and 5, they do start to get into the like overarching plots, and I may be wrong. This you know, someone can say no, they started doing this in other parts and all that. But again, like, yeah, like I feel like that might have also been sort of where it came from here too. Like at the very least, like I think that's at the very least, parts 4 and 5 having those like little sprinklings of, you know, oh, this is like like we're doing this heist, and then at the end of it, oh, you know, maybe it's tied in with this other thing. And then as the season goes, it grows and grows and grows until the last couple of episodes are all about the one big thing.
Right.
Much like here at the end, it was all about like the you know, Fujiko's past and all that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I will just say at the very least, if you watched along with us with this one and you liked it, please check out part 4. I know that there's also like
spin-off
some like
movies,
sequel films, that
in this
are
style,
I think from like some of the same. Yeah, I think it's like the same animation team. I don't think it's the same writers. But I've heard those are good too. I mean, I know that there's like those really famous scenes in the Goemon movie where he's having like a battle against a huge dude with an axe, and just like all the like visceral but also somehow beautiful like gore in that.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. But yes, please go on further. I just wanted to say that like I think that you're 100% right in what you said.
Oh yeah, no, I totally thank you for like supplementing all of that. Especially again with your more familiar knowledge of the franchise. Like, you know, I was only going to continue on saying like, again, just to reiterate, this is my second watch of it. I watched the English dub of it. This is my, you know, I haven't actually seen it in English before. Apparently there's an Italian dub. I probably should have went that route. That might have been interesting. I don't know, but who's to say?
Was that like recent? Because
I don't know. I've seen Italian dub Coco, or like maybe it was one of those weird things that like it might be a fan dub, and for some reason the information is conflated with real information. You know, I actually don't know. I just saw Italian dub somewhere. It could be recent. Because I know there was a re-release issue with like between Discotheque and like if I'm mixing it up, but
well, yeah, but I mean, okay, I'm looking on here. I think what happened was because part 4 was set in Italy. They very specifically were like, we're gonna do an Italian dub. Okay. I think they might have gone back and done more Italian dubs for other stuff. Yeah.
They're like, this worked. Let's go back and do some other stuff in Italian. Yeah.
Lupin does have a pretty big stronghold in Italy, if I remember correctly.
I mean, again, makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Again, it has all the works that would like be popular with like, you know, European audiences. Like, you know, again, there's something very, as I was saying, like very comic booky too, like in a weird like in a westernized way, because again it's taking cues from like kind of like, you know, obviously, you know, the Lupin, his namesake, is from the gentleman theme, like, you know, Arsène Lupin, from the series of novels. But like I overall really still like the series. I really love the series. To watch it again, like there are kind of like kind of like, ooh, I don't know, maybe that could have been done better. But overall, like it is a very strong reinterpretation, if you will, of something that is typically known to be very funny and comical and lighthearted, and they're like, nah, we gotta let's be a little realer. Yeah, like as we were joking about, like tits are out, but not in a way that's so flagrantly like, exploitive, or purely for fan service, for sure. I think it plays upon that, right? As we were saying, like,
yeah.
Like Fujiko, she is like a femme fatale character, and it's very clear that, like, yeah, she is supposed to be totally, she's supposed to be like a hot lady, showing her leg to get the leg up, right, if you will, and they make it very clear that she is in control of her using sex as like a strategic means, as a transactional means, if you will, as I'm going to go into.
Well, she does that, and then like I don't know if you're going into it, but like there's the part where like she's using sex transactionally with like there's this part with Zenigata
where
she's like fucking
which is the
info
weirdest
or whatever.
I think we all have a unanimous feeling about how that character is the strangest, I think, interpretation.
I mean she just fucking goes for it, but then she like tapes her fucking him, like the audio, and she uses it as if she's torturing him to like, trick his partner, which is so funny. Like, that's perfect,
right?
Like yeah, I mean I think you're talking again about like how it's a lot more serious. Like, it definitely is more serious, but it does still have a lot of that Lupin fun too.
Right.
Like, there are just episodes where it's very swashbuckling.
Right.
There are just as many episodes where it is like, no, we're kind of tackling a far more serious topic here.
Yeah, because there's like there's like this whole balance between like that. I think it does generally well. Before I go into like to the ending overall and the payoff of the ending over whether or not it's like but like right, the episode where she teaches at like the all girls school, which is obviously like a throw to like Yuri settings, and like there's the flagrant like tropes of like gay love and gay fiction, and like these the Catholics, like Mother Mary's Watching Me, right? That particularly famous iconic like Yuri story, where it's like very hard to take seriously, and then until the end you kind of like get what's going on, but it's obviously playing upon and like making fun of, but also I think taking a lot of inspiration from like these classic like tropes and trying to subvert them. Another, the weakest episode I felt, because it's just like, okay, whatever, it's fan of the opera again, sure. That is a very obvious like train of inspiration. And then like towards like the latter half, once we start unraveling more of like what's going on with Fujiko's backstory, I felt like there was a lot of like inspiration from like Ikuhara's work, especially with like Revolutionary Girl Utena, and like all this very interesting surrealist like symbolism when it comes to like like when it comes to representing like Fujiko's psyche and like all this ambiguity over like what happened to her in the past, etc. And then we find out like, it's more than that, is it, right? But like and this very tasteful way of like showing clearly like, okay, this is where sex is titillating versus this is sex in a this is sex as like horror. This is the series does have like basically implied sexual violence, like implied assault and rape, and I think it's very it does teeter that very careful balance of like separating those two things, right? Where it very clearly defines like, oh, okay, yeah, this is something that is very scary, very traumatizing, and we want, we're demonstrating that this is a horrific thing happening versus like all the other stuff going on in the series, and I think it does a generally good job with that. I know for a fact that like besides it being, I know for a fact that like, as much as like this series was pretty well acclaimed for how artistic it was, like I know there is some division over like, people going in blindly and being like, whoa, I didn't think it was that serious. I wanted more classic Lupin, which is fair. That's fair. Like, I think but at the same time, I think there is valid criticism over like how it ends, right? Like, and this is a relatively this is like a series that's more than 10 years old, so I think we can talk about the ending.
If you're listening, you're supposed to have watched it.
Yes, if you are, you should have watched it. This series came out 2012, so I think we passed the benchmark for like being careful with spoilers for it. But like the way, so there's a lot of like implied like things in regard like was Fujiko like, so the whole thing with Fujiko is that, and like again most of the Lupin characters, a lot of them have very ambiguous backstories, or there's nothing concrete, but like you said, John, like there's kind of some now semblance of taking inspiration from this particular series where like, oh, maybe now they're looking at continuity and longer arcs and stuff like that. But generally again, the way the characters are, they're timeless, they're ageless, so they tend to not have like consistent backstories, and they're at like playing upon the mystery of, like, where did Fujiko come from? Like, what's her deal? They decide to explore that with this series and suggest, like, oh, maybe she was, like, you know, she was probably brainwashed. Like, she had some sort of horrible upbringing involving her dad, like, experimenting upon her. And, like, she was put through, like, horrible, like, assault and possibly even more. Like I said, sexual violence. And the series does get into that and, like, has her kind of, like, go through the tides of finding that all out herself, like, you know, questioning her own memory and all that and challenging what she believes in. But then it does, like, a whole twist where her memories were kind of, like, fabricated. And that is to say, like, she, it kind of fabricated by someone else, right? And we do kind of see that resolved somewhat at the end. And, you know, kind of the conclusion of the series is this kind of, like, you know, it doesn't matter where Fujiko came from. I'm just me. I don't know, like, like this weird, like, girl boss. Like, I know who I am in the present. Who cares what happened in the past? Anyway, Lupin, let's fuck. I don't know. It was just very strange. Like, if you watch it, like, thinking about it now, it's like, that's a little, I don't know. Like, I do have mixed feelings over whether or not that kind of, like, that kind of waters down the potential strength of her potentially having been a survivor of something horrible and then her coming out of it. But in reality, it's like, no, that was fake. Or rather, not fake, really, but also ambiguous. I don't, it was a little weird. It's a little weird. I still don't know how to feel about it quite, but it could have been worse. but that is to say, overall, leading up to that, it was generally fine, right? So I think that's just kind of where I'm leaving off with that. Also, Oscar is a very strange character, but perhaps we can unpack
Oscar's
that
a
later
very
on
weird character.
as we go on. I definitely want to hear everyone else's thoughts on Oscar and what we felt about Oscar.
I will just say my take on the ending was more just like, not really like a refutation of the this is a hard, you know, like I felt it was more just like, who knows? Like, who knows what hardships Fujiko went through
ambiguity.
in the past.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just think that was just like, you know, like, even if that stuff had happened to her, that she still wants to press on.
Right.
And, you know, I feel like it was just more like we should all just have our lives and live our lives the way we want to, instead of trying to live
being tied
others.
to the past. Yeah.
I think that's what they were going with, and I liked that. But yeah, Oscar's very weird. Maverick, if you want to hop in and talk a bit about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think one point that keeps getting brought up and I think is interesting to this conversation is the idea of just like, what exactly is Lupin III as a franchise, as a series, specifically with its tone, because that conversation, I feel, is always one that comes up whenever any sort of just anything new is done with the material, because, you know, this started out as a manga by Monkey Punch, where, you know, I haven't read them, and honestly, based on what I've heard about them, I'm not jumping at the bit to get to them, because, you know, that version of Lupin is a very salacious,
of its time.
If we're talking about, you know, this idea of like sexual violence and escapade, like, that is very much interpretation, where that is just the punchline a lot of times. To take that to TV, you know, despite it being very popular, would already require reinterpretation of the character, or at least like a look at the character in a way that would make sense. And so, you know, the delineation of green jacket, red jacket, pink jacket, blue jacket, these are all just still various facets specifically as what's needed for Lupin at the time. Like, a lot of people look back fondly on red jacket because of the fact that it's a very just like quick beat by beat, still, you know, mature to an extent, but having fun. Like, the joviality is an important part of Lupin, and I think that's a good thing that the series does. Like, it shows that, like, regardless of the situation, Lupin is the person that is having a laugh, that is constantly being entertained at what's going on, because that is just his interest to crime. Like, I think they had mentioned it in the interpretations where it's like, one, a lot of the designs, which already we're talking about Mario Okada being involved, the director for Yuri on Ice being involved, all character designs being done by Takeshi Koike is such a good move. Like, it really adds to the flair, and to do this fresh out of Redline, that is like such a...
Yes.
Totally.
Like, you can tell he's cooking, especially with having to just like... I wouldn't be surprised if Monkey Punch was already one of his influences, instead of be able to just iterate on classic characters in a way that still blends in your own style while not sacrificing anything out of the silhouettes for each character. Really, really good showing. All that to say that, this, for all intents and purposes, is a prequel to that first 1971 series, because this is us seeing not just Fujiko interacting with everyone for the first time, but like, this gets us to, oh, hey, Jigen and Lupin are going to be friends. Like, they figure out that they work pretty well together. Zenigata has been chasing Lupin for a while, but this is going to be his individual crusade for a bit. How does Goemon get involved with everybody? Why is he this traveling swordsman? It's not, I think, a lesser version of this show would get so caught up on lore aspects and trying to develop this, like, backstory. And thankfully, this is a show that recognizes, no, like, these are just... in the same way that, like... I mean, Lupin has just become a Robin Hood of sorts, where it's like, it's less who are these characters in, like, from the interior, and what are the archetypes that we're working with? What are the beats that we know will come up? Not because we need to just immediately hit these cliches, but because these naturally occur in the stories that we tell with these characters, with these types of individuals. And to do so from an origin standpoint, and to really, like, hone into that setup, I definitely hear criticism about, or I understand criticism about the ending because of the fact that it's sort of like faking out that concept, but at the same time, it's sort of like, really when I think about it, like, I don't need to know what exactly is, like, the origin of Fujiko Mine. Like, do I need to know what were the circumstances that brought it to this point? No. It's the same way that, even though it is available and it's out there and it's fine for it to happen, like that show that's out about Lupin as a kid, while he's, like, hanging out with, like, call it, like, Zenigata, or, like, Lupin III Kids is what I'm, like, zeroing out. No, Lupin Zero, that's what it is. Like, it's fine for that to exist because it's having fun and you're just doing the same beats for stories, except it's, like, at a school or whatever. They haven't done that yet. It's fine. But all that to say is that, like, rather than try and hard insert narrative stakes or, like, narrative weight to what's going on, being able to have that kind of a story and say, sorry that this happened to an individual that really did not, deserve to have this happen to, but, like, what is the key difference here? Ultimately, Fujiko is someone that chooses to not be grounded by the people that she's around, but rather will find the people that she's gravitated to. And I think that is a key component as well. I had mentioned it in our chat that, like, it, by the end of it, I was getting a lot of familiarity with, specifically the Castle of Cagliostro, which, for as much as it is lauded as, like, a, Miyazaki film, one of his first ones, maybe, honestly, I would say it's my favorite Miyazaki film, like, it got a lot of shit because of the fact that it was, like, this kid-friendly interpretation of Lupin, where he's, like, the dashing hero, he's saving the day, and not even taking any reward out of it, but, it's doing all of these references to this idea that, like, oh, here's Lupin, the person that'll steal your heart, even if you think nothing else has been stolen. He's this person who, will still want to get a monetary reward, but if he's at least helping somebody out or, finding fun in what's going on, he's more than happy to go along for the ride. These components that if Cagliostro portrays an older version of this character, Fujiko Mine at least sits there to say, what are the saplings in what's going on here? And does so for all characters to the point of, just really being an interesting conversation piece for something that at this point was sort of looked at maybe over the top, whoa, do we need all of this overt violence, this overt nudity? To have that conversation with something that is being critiqued for its conservativeness to an extent, it's interesting and really just showcases how iterative the entire franchise is. And, there are a lot of stories in Lupin as a whole that I'm sure do focus in on Fujiko and are at least more willing to play with that character. It's awesome that, after the series is out, it does sound like they're more willing to use Fujiko as a character, because she is a fun, she wouldn't be in this story if it weren't for the fact that she is fun to use, she is fun to write for, especially with the way that she has her own association to crime, association to burglary than Lupin, than the rest of his gang.
I am glad that we all got to watch some Lupin together. That is my main takeaway for sure. I feel like I've kind of already shared how I feel in a way. I really enjoyed it. I think that its influences can be felt through the rest of the franchise afterwards, and I really got to get on more of those discotheque releases, because that is how I watched it. I watched it on the discotheque Blu-ray. Really great dub. We were talking about that whole group is just the Lupin dub team, basically. They have them dubbing part 1 up till now, pretty much. They just got everything. They're doing everything.
Now, is this different from the Funimation dub?
I think it is just the same dub, because I don't think Discotheque got a different dub.
Okay, because it's fucking weird that Richard Epcar is Zenigata in this one. No, I only asked because I threw one of the episodes on as a dub to see just how that cast was. I do not recommend watching all of the episodes in one day.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I have a great habit where if I need to play games for the game podcast, I'll instead watch anime. If I need to watch anime for the anime podcast, I'm instead going to play games.
Yeah,
it rules. But no, the thing that threw me off was that Zenigata is voiced by Richard Epcar, who famously has been the voice of Jigen for a while.
Jigen, yeah.
Earlier today, I was just watching I'm renowned for my misogyny, and hearing something similar coming out of Zenigata, I'm like, whoa, is he in a disguise? And that's that's the other thing too, where it's Lupin is a good it's a good series that makes you recognize voice talent, in the same way that in the West, The Simpsons, you can tell that there's just wear and tear on those voices because of how long you have experienced those voices, and you just know at this point Julie Kavner is just really having a rough one.
It's so bad. They need to stop. They all do.
Yeah.
Just hear it. It's what are you... There's some sort of... I've seen some sort of acting joke to be made with women white women specifically, white women who are like hitting 70 and are still voicing little boys for and what are you doing? You can do better than this. Do not destroy your tonsils. What is going on? Man, no, you're absolutely right.
But it's a similar thing here, where it's like realizing that, the person who was able to voice Fujiko for this then had the chance to voice her is now just like the dedicated seiyuu. Like, in general, Japan has a better job of just being able to say, like, okay, if you have a character, literally, you're that character until we just have nothing to do for this property. But otherwise, go hog wild. Goku is a 90-year-old woman, and she's still
she's still going.
She's still going. Like, I don't know if they're gonna hit that hurdle at any point, but yeah, just like, I don't know. It's interesting to see, even with something that is so unconventional, just the ways that it keeps and upholds tradition in its own way. And, again, when it comes to the idea of tone and the idea of just what exactly is Lupin, that's the question that people are always going to try and figure out. And I don't know if there'll ever be a satisfactory answer, but it's at least easier to just say what isn't Lupin, and this clears the bar for that completely.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, again, as someone who's not that familiar and maybe has only like jumped around, like seeing various other Lupin stuff, I do agree. We've talked about this where Zenigata, it was very strange. I think to see that, even to me, was like very jarring to see like this character who's kind of like typically a bumbling, like very serious, misogynistic,
a bumbling oaf who cares about justice.
What is going on?
No, and I mean, Jigen is also a bit weird in this show.
Yeah.
Like,
but it wasn't as apparent. I was like, oh, okay, something. Yeah, but it wasn't.
I mean, it's really just like his singular episode. Because just like historically, Jigen is literally just like he's like repulsed by women.
Yeah,
like Maverick said, like his tendencies for misogyny are legendary. You know. And like his whole like episode is about like it's about him like falling in love with the woman that he's protecting, and also like him getting with Fujiko, and it's just like nah, the only person Jigen's ever macking on is Lupin. Quite a long later. Like
they're like non-legally married.
No, it's 100% just like Lupin, Jigen, and Fujiko are like a throuple, except they all kind of hate each other, and they all just want to get with Lupin.
Oh
and Lupin
man, now I'm remembering. There
like,
was a person on DeviantArt that I followed, and they loved that shipping. They loved Lupin and Jigen. That's all they drew, like in the art, like in the goofy ass art style too.
I fucking get it. No,
but back then I didn't process that those were Lupin characters, and that was Lupin as well. But okay, I have a weird sorry, that was just a weird memory that resurfaced.
No, some good old man.
I wonder where are they now? I hope they have a happy life.
I hope they're fucking.
I hope they're still dry Lupin times Jigen.
And then, again, like with this being posited as like the before we get into the conventions of the rest of the show, I at least get like, I don't know, Jigen didn't feel too out of place, but if this is sort of like the way for him to be like, you know what, I had my one, and now just I'm good. And then, later episodes go into like, hey, this Lupin guy, he's not too bad. Let me mess around with him somewhat. Again, Zenigata is just so funny because it's like, again, part of it too is that I think the show does a really good job of answering the question of like, why do they all just hang around each other? And to give a villain like the Count, where by the end of it, I was genuinely pissed off. Like, the show does a good job of providing you a villain that you just actively hate. Like, what is it? The presentation of Malice is interesting and entertaining. The Malice itself is so off-putting, and to even get the twist at the end, it is just like, God, that is a horrible cycle of abuse to witness and see unfurl. And again, like, Fujiko's strength is being able to say, I don't want to do that. I'm not gonna be a part of this. I've got other stuff that I want to focus on. My will allows me to just do me, and I'm gonna do that. And in a weird way, Goemon, Jigen, Zenigata, and Lupin are also people that recognize, like, no, yeah, Fujiko's Fujiko. We're gonna, do this weird on-again, off-again heist cat and mouse thing, but it's the fact that we're all getting to do this out of our own volition that makes us want to continue. It is such an interesting... again, like, I'm sure people have done entire case studies on just, like, the whole dynamics of Lupin characters in relation to just, like, societal expectations, societal norm. But this show at least goes with that and says, like, yeah, like, she cares somewhat about these freaks because of the fact that they were there at a point where she really needed someone. And, in this case, a male figure that was like, no, you were allowed to be yourself without having to worry about punishment, without having to worry about any sort of, like, reprimand from me, which is a crucial aspect in any sort of, like, talk about power dynamics among genders, where, yeah, like, it's not just that Fujiko is strong and is shown to be carefree. It's that Lupin looks at that and says, damn, that's awesome. I've got to be able to, like, catch up to her. I'll make her mine is definitely, like, a way to, show that he's not, like, I'm not going to call Lupin, like, the dashing feminist of our time, but he at least recognizes, like, yeah, no, Fujiko, I'm going to be messing with her for a while, and it's less about wanting to actually get some end state and more the chase. More the act of getting to just continue to be with her in whatever means. Which is romantic in its own way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very good show, and I'm happy I finally watched it. And I'm probably gonna try to check out some of the commentary and stuff on there too, because the Blu-ray's got, like, some commentary and some other bonus stuff.
Oh, and if you want to talk about misogynists, I do want to get a bit about Oscar, because that is such...
Yes. Speaking of, I did find the
wild.
artists I had a memory of. They're still on Twitter. Good job. They also were one of the few Japanese artists that were for some reason on DeviantArt in 2013. That was their last post. But yes, the Jigen Lupin is still there. Good for them. They never deleted it.
God,
they're one of those people who made Lupin.
Are they still doing it?
No. Their last post is in 2013, but they're on Twitter doing other things. I don't know if new art, but they're active there. So good for them. But no, they're one of those people who made Lupin way too handsome. Like, also
he's a little freak.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's not, I don't know. Like, they made him, like, buff. Like, but I guess it's to satisfy, like, shipping him with, anyway. But yeah, speaking of gay, Oscar. Oscar, I agree, Maverick, that's really good. Oscar's a little, I would say Oscar felt like a very unfulfilled character. Like, there was something there that could have, like, there was something there where, like, he was too much of, like, a joke character, and way too last minute they decided to do something with him and be like, wait, we gotta, like, have something to this guy more than some sort of weird homosexual stereotype. He actually has something going on here. Let's unpack that. And they, like, just didn't... They didn't really properly resolve it or gave him the respect he deserved, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like Oscar shows up, and
he's an original character, by the way, for anyone listening. Yeah. He's an original character to this, and as far as I know, he never shows up in any other Lupin thing since. Still,
no,
unclear if he will, but he is original to the Fujiko.
No, I believe it. Zenigata usually has, like, other people he's working with, or, like, right. The episodes.
Yeah, they rotate.
Like,
yeah.
it all depends on just like what exactly is going on. Like Zenigata is the guy that is like, my team is whoever I need to help with because Lupin's going to go like case the joint or whatever.
Right.
I think like there's an episode in like the Red Jacket season where he's working with basically like Kid Columbo.
That makes a lot of sense. Like he's like anchored by like a one-time supporting character. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like God, I think in the recent ones he is like just helping out Sherlock Holmes. I think that's what's going on in the most recent part, but yeah, like
I mean, there's always like a quote unquote original character that pops up in the newer seasons. Like in part 4, there's like the Rebecca lady who's like, they basically introduce her as like, oh man, is this Lupin's new love interest? And she's just like, a new, cog in that contraption. And they'll do that here and there. They'll just be like, yeah, here's a new character.
Yeah, but Oscar is a very interesting case of wanting to do this study of someone who, again, if, our standby characters are people who immediately look at Fujiko Mine and understand a camaraderie or a love from being able to interact with her, Oscar, and to an extent the overarching villain in the cult, are, the explanation of avarice, and if not full on, like, genuine misogynistic contempt for a woman like Fujiko Mine, which is an interesting comparison, especially with the way, ultimately Oscar's entire deal is that he is in love with Zenigata. Zenigata is the person who, rescued him from a life of crime, of villainy. He calls him like his black gem, his black diamond, in one of those episodes. And then I thought he was going to be gone after like essentially blowing himself up. So
right.
Yeah.
To see him show up at the end, it just felt very like, what's going on? What are we doing here? And
it is a little weird. It doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, because his main thing is just like he breaks down, he breaks down in like this whole theme park that the cult created of like Fujiko Mine, which is something, but yeah, like he just never really resolves his narrative after getting brought back up, which from what I thought was a pretty like poignant thing. Like I would rather die than let Zenigata know I fucked up this bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there thinking about it now, there definitely are like these threads, especially looking back on like some of the things that happened throughout the series. Like he also like sneaks into the all-girls school dressed up as a girl. Like his hatred and jealousy of Fujiko in a lot of ways. Well, I just said the word, right? Like it can like his hatred and animosity for Fujiko and like wanting to kill her, thinking she's like in the way of Zenigata or like using her to like. I don't know, to advance like what he wants. It feels like jealousy too. Like there's something there that feels like are they trying to explore gender dysphoria? Like there's like all these moments where he's cross-dressing, he's dressing like her, like there's all this like touchstones of like does he want to be her? And then they just kind of like treat it as like not quite as a joke, but like it's an afterthought, right? So it's like and it's like such a bad stereotype too. It is kind of like a bad trope in a lot of ways as the gay character who like hates women. And, the gay villain that hates women. You know what I mean? So it's very unfortunate that he just went out of the way without resolve to that. Like yeah.
Yeah, it unfortunately is something I think that is a part of Okada's screenplay or part of her writing where she has a very tactile understanding of, femininity, womanhood.
Right.
That is par for the course, of course. But then the exploration of gender specifically and sort of the ins and outs can be... She's willing to wade into the pool, but then there is a bit of, like, splashing around, and whether or not we get something at the other side of it usually can be up for debate, or can be something that could be lacking or wanting more of.
Right, like the whole scene and montage where they show all the like clones and like the experiments, and he like becomes part of them. That's like, oh, is that like? Are they saying he's like is there some sort of trans crisis going on? Like he doesn't know like what's because why is he now with the other women? So like is he she like right?
Or,
and they just don't answer that. He just has a breakdown. And we don't see him again. Yeah, so it's like, oh, okay, we're cooking something here, but we don't. We just leave it there.
Yeah.
Or even for a character like him to not understand what exactly gender envy is, but to at least recognize, like, I am trapped in this room with the very thing that my love wants. Could I get something out of this? Could I, do I just assimilate to this? And like, he still has that breakdown where then, like, he crashes the truck into the whole complex, and that's where I remember Oscar last being, which, I forget if he does anything else, but yeah, it's a very curious character to incorporate, and it makes stuff like Zenigata being a bit more brazen. If they want to go with that, back and forth, makes sense. I'm not gonna like critique it too much. It's just really funny to think of Zenigata as the guy who fucks when he like in every other iteration has zero game, has zero swag.
Right. 0% swag. Yeah, again, it just shows the limitations, despite the triumph of this, having a lot of women in authority on the team to make this, which is great. And that shows its strengths in so many parts of this show, especially in regards to how strong Fujiko is as a character and their own interpretation of her. But also, like, in their own kind of, like, I myself being a straight woman, like, my own, like, unconfirmed biases that I still need to check out and be like, uh-oh, am I, like... like, being especially with Japanese fiction, still being very informed by, like, yaoi and fujoshi, like... media pieces of media. So I think that unfortunately is what happened to Oscar, right? Like there's a lot of traces of the show's aesthetics and stuff that is so influenced by like women's fiction. Like I said, like the all girls school like episode where Fujiko is like going in as like a like that's so like again inspired by like a lot of Yuri fiction and shoujo ai. So I and that's sadly the case of it. That's just one of the weak points of it. And which again goes to say, like, we need more queer people in writing rooms, right? But like, that's kind of like, I guess the most outstanding weak point of the series as a whole. That otherwise is, I feel like is a very good series, right? It's just that character in particular that, like, a lot of ways too. If you like removed him, well, actually no, that would impact like a couple episodes. But I feel like if you just removed him, like it doesn't. Which also shows a weak, it's like if you removed him and like pretend he wasn't there, like it does kind of also like, it feels like things can still also move forward without him, it's like, what's the point, right? But yeah, he for sure could have been a really, really interesting exploration of those themes.
Yeah. Damn, we really went in on this.
We did. It's a good series.
I like it. No, I like it.
It's as deep as the layers that it tried to present.
Yeah.
And like any good Lupin series, it makes me want to watch more. I want to just go through all it. If I were on my freak shit, I would have probably just devoured, at the very least, like, the first season, since that's one of the things that's in, like, conversation with, but not like it's good for something as like again, as dense as Lupin III is in terms of just how much of it is out there. It's always good when you can just hop in whenever and just be like, all right, there's more waiting for me when I'm ready to get to it.
Right. So, would we like to move on to other things? Because, we didn't get any questions this time. Y'all, keep up with us. Talk about what you've been watching, Send
if anything,
questions, send us some questions, whatever the hell.
It just means more people got to watch Lupin III, Woman Called Fujiko Mine.
That's right. That's fucking right. But, let's see here. I'm trying to think because we all talked quite a bit, so I don't want to be like, oh, you didn't, it's your turn, but Oh, you've got quite a few things compared to the rest of us here. Why don't you hit us with some stuff that you've been watching?
Yeah, I don't know, Maverick. Do you want to talk about Scott Pilgrim together?
Yeah,
I actually have not finished it, but I don't know if you want to do that.
Oh, you haven't finished it yet? Oh.
No, I know what happens. So here's the thing. This freshly came out, so we gotta approach this carefully. But I don't know if people, like most people know, like it's not a direct adaptation now of. I mean, I don't know. Like, how should we approach this? Because it is something that's still very recent, but it does
for one
take
thing,
a different turn than the original.
For one thing, because this is apparently a point of contention, yes. I guess.
Sure, it's kind of controversial, yeah.
It's an anime.
Controversial. Yes, there is.
It is done by Science Saru. They have worked on various other productions. They are a Japanese studio. It doesn't matter if the person who is, like, directing it comes from another location. For all intent and purposes, it's anime. People are doing
there
weird...
are several... Yeah. So that's the first controversy.
People are doing weird phrenology about what counts as Japanese animation, and it's like, dog, literally just tell me that, like, you're hiring a studio that is based in Japan, and that's anime. Yes, that includes Generation 1 Transformers. That includes... or if you want to delineate it, you know, there is an aesthetic aspect to it as well. Transformers, Voltron... Tiny Toons, that all is just specifically trying to be a thing that a executive in the West said, all right, give this to the kids, they're going to buy the toys, they're going to buy the video games, perfect. And those can stay as cartoons or whatever. This is very much marketed to be an anime and to be something that is like understood to be at the, you know, if the roads diverged between Tezuka and Walt Disney, which even then, Osamu Tezuka was inspired by Donald Duck cartoons and comic. Like, anime just means animation.
Yes.
And at this point, anime carries with it a specific aesthetic and style, and I feel the square to rectangle situation is more so about anything can be anime, but it's harder to discern that something isn't anime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Code Lyoko is anime, even though it's not. It's fucking French CG 2D shit, but you can tell those motherfuckers love.
That in itself is its own debated genre, where you have French animation, yes, but then there's also French animation heavily influenced by anime and Japanese media. You know, like that's like its own bubble in a weird way.
Exactly. So much stuff clings to that title that it's easier to say, like, yeah, fuck it, it's an anime at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, than to just try and sit here and very finally decide whether or not it doesn't fit to that camp. And I'm choosing to say this more than a certain Canadian, because I've got a bone to pick. Even though, like, we agree on a lot of the same stuff, I'm just like, ever since you did YouTube voice, you changed.
I would say this show is like the least Canadian that it can be, like, despite it being set in Canada. Like, the tides have turned, really. For all those movies that have been shot in Canada that are technically supposed to be set in New York, love different situation here, but yeah. So that's kind of part one of the discourse right now with Scott Pilgrim. The second layer, from what I've seen, there's so many like anime directory websites that don't know what to fucking do with this series. Like, people, like, moderators are fighting over listing it or not. Like, people keep removing it. It's very funny. Like,
apparently it's not on Yana.
Like, my anime list keeps removing it, but someone keeps putting it back up. It's very strange. But the second layer is like how the series is apparently not a one, as it turns out, immediately upon the first episode, it's actually not a one-to-one adaptation of how the events of the comic and the movie adaptation go. It actually takes a different turn, that for sure. have people receive mixed reception to, but for the most part, most people who went out of their way to complete the series like generally do like the series. And I do know what happens. I guess I'm still figuring out how do we talk about it, since again it is something that's super recent compared to Fujiko Mine. But again, like this stuff happens in the first episode, so that's also. But stylistically, yes, I could say it's very good. I think they do. I think this is the most like. I think this is the most like at least so far of what I see like best like animated adaptation of like how to translate the comics the comics art style. And it's very interesting for them to, and there is a Japanese voice cast too for the series. But yes, of course, seeing the English cast, which are the actors they brought on for the most part from the movie adaptation, they got everyone in there somehow.
Yeah,
it's very cool. It's very cool. Which I theorize, they probably okay. So here's the thing. Here's another thing. Of course, like some of the criticism would be like a lot of these actors aren't like. There's like moments of stillness, like again, so gracefully done in meditative ways that is so distinct, I guess, from the movie adaptation, which is very bombastic, and moments of stillness, right? That a lot of like other anime series have trouble translating from manga to animated form, and that's where the filler problem comes in. We're like, how do we interpret this panel where nothing happens and there's like periods of silence, right? And it's very clear, like, how, like, awesome and cool and nostalgic it is to get, like, a lot of these actors in to voice what they done, in anime form. It's also it becomes very apparent, though, where, like, some of them are not, not trained to do voice acting or not used to doing voice acting. And I guess they're, which again is the fault of like direction and perhaps what they're so used to do, like what they're so used to or have been acclimated to their knowledge and experience as those respective characters, when they were playing them in the movie.
Yeah.
And I highly theorize when this series was in production, I had several thoughts, and I'm like, no, the SAG-AFTRA strikes were like very soon, like we're too recent. No, I think they recorded all of this remotely. Well, not remotely, but they were all very distant from each other. Maybe they like went to a booth like individually. They didn't like go as groups.
Oh yeah, and the timing of all
this. They did it during the 2020 lockdowns, and I think that also adds to the problem of the voice direction kind of being off, as some people feel like, in terms of being like dull sounding and not, again, it's like such a contrast and jarring thing too. But again, perhaps a lot of us are speaking from our own bias of seeing the movie version, right? Which again has a different acting approach to be loud and crazy. And on top of the fact that, like some of these actors have not done voice acting, right, professionally. So that's what I'm thinking. I think, and I remember actually watching the live reunion reading, the script reading for Charity they did over Zoom. So I feel like the anime was probably already in production around time. I have all these theories, like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Looking back, like, oh shit, that's probably when they timed all that stuff, It's like, okay, we got all these people together. We might as well just start talking about these negotiations and clearing things. So I imagine that's when they started voice acting in the midst of that reunion. I
mean, so like the whole cool. thing apparently started from the fact that Michael Cera like responded to an email thread, and Chris Evans was like, "Dude, it's been 10 years. Why the fuck are you on this thread?"
I didn't even realize emails like that old can be saved.
They can, yeah, but that is very much a thing where it's like, this came out 2023. I would figure that like 2021 to 2022 would have been when this stuff was recorded, specifically because as well, it's a weird thing where I think there's been word that the English tracks were first recorded, but then the syncing, the animation syncing, and you can tell when you like are watching it with the Japanese voiceover, like Saru is dubbing or Saru is tracking to the Japanese dialogue.
Yes.
But then also, because like I watched it once through with English, started going back through it again in Japanese, and there's some character voices where it's like, Ramona Flowers is Fyro's Eye in Japanese. So the voice of Jolene, the voice of so many other people. Like, she's a very up and coming seiyuu at the moment, but very much is taking, I would say, a page from Mary Elizabeth Winstead's very like toned down and more deliberate interpretation of Ramona.
Kind of deadpan too,
kind of deadpan, but like, you know, leaning into it. Knives is the voice Kaguya from Kaguya-sama, and in that case, she is just doing Kaguya very excited, which works. That's just how you do that character. But then there's other stuff where it's like, you know, young Neil. I love him in the English performance. Like, it's a very good interpretation and just over-exaggeration of that character that it seems like really, you know, the Japanese chapter was like, oh, let me try and just, like, match that and just, like, keep that energy. Lucas Lee, Chris Evans, you know, it's easy to forget that he is good at what he does because he's had to be Captain America for so long, but, like, that is a really fun interpretation as well. And I think the biggest thing is that we just get more of these characters. Like, what was I going to talk about for a minute? Just the history of Scott Pilgrim as a piece of media is also interesting to look at because, you know, you have this indie comic from 2005 all the way, like, for 5 years into 2010 that is very specifically about one guy in his 20s putting together all these feelings of just starting to get out of your 20s and how exactly does that, you know, feel to, like, not only be in that rut, but to then eventually get out of it. You know, that I'm speaking on this as a 27-year-old, but, like, you know, the routine, like, mini crisis that you can feel of just working your dead-end job, working to just make sure that you have enough to pay the rent. The rent goes up, maybe. All right, time to figure that out. I'm working with stuff with my friends, but is that really going to, like, lead to anywhere? Do we actually have, like, an album planned out, or is that just an inevitable pipe dream? What are the things that I actually want to take stock of if I'm thinking about, you know, an inevitable next step? It's a very interesting piece. Book 5 is definitely my favorite because it just really leans on this, like, idea of just, if everything feels normal, is that actually okay with you? Do you sit well with the idea of stuff being okay? And for some people, the answer is no. I kind of hate that, and I need to learn how to be okay with that. Great stuff. I love the comics. It's always there. But the idea is, like, you know, literally it was still being written out until, like, the 6th book that was done in tandem with the movie. And then, you know, famously, Edgar Wright has a screenplay that's like, well, what if Scott Pilgrim decided to keep dating the high schooler? Which, for as much as I love the movie as my first watching experience, as my first, you know, like, solo theater experience, as a taste setter for a lot of what I would then go into, like, it was watching that in middle school, and then the next year I ended up watching Fooly Cooly, Gurren Lagann, and my brain...
Just think of angst, yeah.
My brain is like this now because of just the 2 consecutive summers of just the most formative shit you could show a 13-year-old.
Okay, wait, no, you are definitely bringing up a weird, great point of, like, being a teen, but you're still, like, maybe 2 to 3 years short of, like, watching a genre of, like, YA young adult angst fiction. And then, like, when you get there, you kind of get it. There is something about that. It's like, wait a minute, hold on.
Well, yeah, like, for me, at the very least, like, Scott was always, like, a cautionary tale,
like,
even if it didn't...
Yeah,
it's like...
You're 12 or 10 watching Serial Experiments Lane, and then you just don't process, like... wait a minute, you just don't process it until later on, but you're not that far off from the age window you should be processing it, so I don't know.
Well, because again, it's like, it doesn't click yet, or if I can get a bit into like Ericksonian psychology, 10 to 12 was when you were still in that idea of competition, where you were only seeing yourself as, am I the smartest in school? Am I the fastest in my class? Am I the best or am I the worst at something? And that's really what you settle on until puberty hits, and then you have, amongst all of these other components, the psychosexual, the somatic, that idea of the self. And truly when you start asking about your identity and like, who am I? And part of that gets processed through media that is also asking the question of, what if there was a character that needed to ask who they were and went through the journey to figure that self out. And for some people that sticks very well and then becomes something to latch onto. And then for others, you say, hey, that was awesome. I think you should date the high schooler. But I mean, hey, I get it. Ellen Wong is fantastic. If I had her playing a character, it'd be a no-brainer to be like, oh yeah, just get with Ellen Wong. Why would you not? But movie, 10 years later, like, it's so interesting to see just the trajectory of everything, where, like, it feels like it's been enough time to have this come out, but then it's just always been... like, Scott Pilgrim has never fallen out of conversation, which is really interesting in terms of just pieces of media that have a longevity, but for no, like, real discernible reason. Like, part of it is, and I was arguing a bit about this with a server, where it's like, oh, Scott Pilgrim is one of those first things that had its, like, video game references tied in, and you could kind of look at that as, like, the progenitor for stuff like Ready Player One, and it's like, what are you smoking? That's not. Or Brian Lee O'Malley grew up playing video games, grew up with the Toronto indie scene, grew up with the, very specific references that he uses, but it never comes
like
across...
authentic interests and experiences, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking Scott has a PSP Go in Volume 6. No one's talking about the volume... No one's talking about the PSP Go in 2010, but Brian Lee O'Malley probably had one, so it's like, yeah, fuck it. He's depressed in his bougie apartment. Of course he's going to be playing Monster Hunter's Freedom Unite on the PSP Go. Why not? But... it's a very organic use of other media, and to do this, again, in, like, 2005, where, like, we're just getting the deluge of video game-related webcomics, it rides that wave a little bit. Movie comes out, people are getting into, indie rock again. It's also that big explosion of, like, post-Strokes, like, car commercial indie. And so there's a lot of relegation there. Never mind the fact that the movie's tagline is the fucking epic of epicness bullshit. Such a bad poster. But, like, it's curious to see the way Scott Pilgrim has always managed to be in conversation and in just relevance outside of just making up the guy that thinks Scott Pilgrim is a perfect role model, which Twitter loves to do.
Everything that he did. It's the only way that you'll succeed.
Yep. You gotta grow up in Montreal for a bit. You gotta beat up a dude. You gotta move up north and leave the girl that's your first girlfriend. Get back with her as a friend, but never resolve the tension there. It's a whole step-by-step process.
No, yeah, but you're right.
Follow
that
the
like,
process.
yeah, every 2 months, someone realizes with a flick of media literacy that they're like, "Hey guys, this Scott Pilgrim's a bad person," as if we hadn't had these conversations for the past 10 years.
As if no one,
No.
as if every single person,
as if every like, why are you?
no, as if Scott Pilgrim is the only person with issues, and everybody aged 19 to 24 is a perfect angel and has never done anything wrong.
But also, I think it's funny too, because no, but you're right. It's something about this piece of media that it just, the people like just doing that is also like constantly resurging interest in it. Like, you know, like it's like, hey, so then involuntarily people are like, what is Scott Pilgrim? Like if they never heard of it.
Or it's like, you know, there's not much. There's not much post-collegiate adolescent media out there, or like there can
very
be, but
Canadian, like weirdly, just like there's like a lot of like weird subtle points in the series too that I just don't really like, you know, like that a lot of ways that like people from like Toronto would know about, right? So there's something about that too.
But with Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, I love it as a companion to the series. It gives a lot of characters the chance to shine they didn't get from just the comic and movie, giving a very bare bones, you know, beat 1, beat 2, beat 3. And it needed to do that because that's the story it wanted to tell. But it's really cool that, you know, Brian Lee O'Malley sat there, and I think in interviews was also like, I don't just want to do a straight adaptation. I could do that. That could be fine. But I want to do something that feels, you know, in conversation with that original vision. And it makes sense. You know, he wrote that comic when he was in his 20s. He's in his 40s now. He's gone through so many other life moments and chances to be introspective and to look back at that time already, you know, looking back at that through other work. I would say in a weird way, this takes a lot from Seconds, his sophomore,
I was gonna say,
technically third comic, because Lost at Sea was also one of his things, but like Seconds was the most immediate.
Snot Girl came out around that time.
Yeah, which I have not read yet, but I would love to get into Snot Girl. But yeah, like Seconds was the immediate thing where it's like, you know, that is talking about being in your 30s and just the constant idea of like, could I change stuff? Could I make things different? To have that grapple with, you know, essentially like a younger quote unquote mindset, but really what it all is just like, and to get into the, I would say, broader aspect of it, rather than saying, what if Scott Pilgrim had to defeat his evil exes? We ask, what if Ramona had to reconcile with the fact her exes have some hang-ups?
Yeah.
And it's a very curious study there. Not one that just puts the onus on her, but is willing to say, hey, yeah, maybe more than just one person in a relationship can be shitty, and it takes work to unshit yourself.
Yeah, the direction the anime does take is very much, again, without saying anything specifically, but like it very much, from my understanding, like a lot of press reviews and stuff say Scott Pilgrim growing up and the words maturing and all that, you know, and you made a great point already with Brian, you know, the author, you know, Brian Lee O'Malley's like introspection over time, aging and stuff, you know, having gone through his own relationship issues and stuff like that, and perhaps looking inwardly in a personal level and being like, oh my gosh, you know, looking at himself and applying what he knows now, like the values he knows now and his present day understanding of things to what makes a lot of sense for him wanting to do something a little different and not wanting to do a straight adaptation. You know, kind of, yeah, like you said, like seconds, like a second chance.
I guess like the other thing that I could
reading room for other characters for sure. Yeah. Instead, their perspective.
Like now that I sit on it with a little bit more time, it feels very Venture Bros adjacent. Where, Venture Brothers famously, like Doc Hammer and Jackson Public, they've gone on record to be like, we're never going to answer anything. We're never going to like say definitively whether or not something happens. We want you to just stay in the mystery, to be in that moment of like, crafting your theories, crafting your ideas, understanding just how dense and big this world we've cultivated is. And the movie that ultimately, puts a bow on the show really celebrates that idea. Similarly, here it's not necessarily giving you like the definitive answer on who is Scott Pilgrim or who are the people that make up the show. It's just a reinterpretation that really provides an understanding to what exactly, makes people still want to come back to this property, this character, group of characters. It's really like fascinating in that aspect. But Maverick, what about Edgar Wright? What about Edgar Wright? I'm sorry, like as someone that saw Baby Driver, didn't care enough to watch Last Night in Soho.
I forgot Last Night in Soho existed. I was like, what are you talking about? That's a movie? That doesn't sound real.
It came out.
Okay, now.
Haven't watched it.
Okay, see, once again, it came out at a time no one's outside. No one's outside around this time when this came out.
Oh, people are trying to be outside.
Oh no, this what is okay. But yeah, what about Edgar Wright? What give me your hot take. What's going on?
I don't know. I just feel like he is the most He's
referenced too much. He is one of those guys for sure. Yeah, it's like
I like the Cornetto trilogy. I think it's good.
It's fun.
I just feel like this is the most please I need this that he's been about a property in a minute. And that's including, like, I have no idea what the fuck Alison Pill is doing, but she's hanging out if she's not doing this.
Well, thank you for the Scott Pilgrim minute, for sure.
We walked around what actually happens very clearly. We were so vague, but I think a lot of people know right now what happens. But we're very much implying, we encourage people to like watch it and see what they think. If they're like someone who knows the comics, love the movie, that's pretty much what we were saying. It's like, okay, we both have positive that's what I think we're saying. We both have positive feelings of it, and we're very curious as to what listeners think. Again, like we want your not just questions, opinions are nice too all the time. If you send it to us,
send your shit in.
Send your shit in.
We want it. Yeah. So I, other than the Fujiko watch, have mostly still been just reading.
Nice.
I suppose I could just like run you all through some stuff that I've been experiencing. The thing that has been taking up most of my time when I do read manga is Pokemon Adventures. I'm 12 volumes in out of like 80 something. Because
at what point? Continue. I'm sorry. I was going to ask at what point does the artist changes because of like health issues, right? That was a whole thing, or am I?
I think it was the artist changed like after Gen 1.
Oh wow!
Much.
Okay.
Like I think at the beginning of Gen 2.
Okay.
I mean, maybe the artist changed again. I don't know. I just know that because the the scans that I'm reading are the Viz version. Yeah. It has like the translated bits from the artist and the writer and all that, and the artist is like, "Yeah, no, I'm excited to come in for Gen 2," basically, and I'm still in Gen 2. Yeah, that is where I am. I got through like the big introduction for Crystal. I think it's kind of cool that they like. Because, like, they're like, okay, here's all these characters, they're good at battling, they're good at raising their Pokemon, they're good at understanding their Pokemon. And then I guess they had to be like, okay, what's another thing that you could be good at in the Pokemon world? Catching them? Sure. So, like, Crystal's whole thing is just she's really good at catching Pokemon. Like, her backstory is insane. Like, she was, like, out practicing catching Pokemon, and she like fell off of a cliff and broke both of her arms, but she continued to train. So she's like, her skills are like she can kick Pokeballs really fast to catch Pokemon.
Oh my god!
Like, it's so weird. Like, it is such a just off the shits story. Like, as someone who, you know, is obsessed with Pokemon, like, seeing this alternate version of it, because, you know, it's using all the characters in the games. Like, you know, the first part, it is red, blue, and green, which, if I remember correctly, yeah, that was like way before they, you know, like, really introduced Green as a character in the games, even, because, like, she was, like, canonized in Fire Red and Leaf Green, like, when you could finally play as the female character in the remake. But there was, like, that art that I think Ken Sugimori did, like, very early on that had her in it, so they basically just put her in the manga. But, you know, there's just all kinds of crazy shits happening. Like, half of the gym leaders in Gen 1 are in Team Rocket. Like, it's like Lieutenant Surge and Koga and Sabrina and, you know, of course, Giovanni. So, yeah, so, like, half of the gym leaders are just evil in that. And the Elite Four is also evil. It's fucking crazy. But, yeah, in Gen 2, you know, Team Rocket's coming back, and so there's that whole bit where, you know, like Lieutenant Surge and Co. are like, I don't know if we want to, you know, we're loyal to Giovanni. I don't know if we want to go with this new version of Team Rocket. So that's them kind of like sliding over to the new that them being good eventually. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that they kind of like had to come up with their own story for Gen 1, because yeah, Gen 1 is so basic. It is just collect the badges and beat Team Rocket, and, you know, like, Team Rocket is just the Grunts and Giovanni at that point. And then in Gen 2, they actually started to introduce, you know, like, Team Rocket had more going on. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, no, here's like the self-building and the Celadon Game Corner, and then you beat them, and that's like it. In Gen 2, you know, there was, like, the Lake of Rage stuff, and they were doing the Slowpoke Tales early on, and, you know, they're all over the place in Gen 2. And then they also have, like, the admins and all that, so they had, like, more characters involved with it, so, like, that works better in the manga. But now they're also, like, trying to include all the old characters, and so it's fucking crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, they did introduce the one, like, original character, Yellow, because they wanted to have a character for a Yellow version, I suppose.
Right.
And they do this whole thing where, like, I don't know why they, like, hide Yellow's gender in it. Like, they're, like, Yellow's just, like, wearing a hat, and they're like, oh, okay, you're a boy with the hat. Like, you know, your hat makes you look so masculine. And then I think the hat gets knocked off at one point, and everyone's just like, oh, you're a girl. And it's like...
Everyone knows girls have long hair. Yeah, like, what?
I mean, but she has the long hair anyway. It's not even like she's, like, covering her hair up with the hat. She's got long hair coming out of the hat. Like, it's just, I don't fucking know.
I saw you, like, go somewhere else about, like, Bugsy gets shown in, and then, like, there's stuff about Bugsy and gender. I don't know.
Yeah, there's also a part where in Gold, when Gold first meets Bugsy, Gold is like basically like slicking his hair back and being like, "Hey, baby, how's it going?" And then Bugsy's just like, "I'm a dude. What's up?" And just like. And you know, like, I was just kind of sitting there like, were people like thinking that Bugsy was a girl at that point? Like, I like, you know, even like back when I was a kid and I was not, you know, informed at all, I just was just like, yeah, Bugsy's, but that seems like
me as like an 8-year-old doing the gymnastics of, well, long hair, voiced by somebody that sounds like a lady, that does bring points for girl. However, Bugsy likes bugs. And that's boys.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just like... I just never, like... I don't know, when I think of, like growing up and seeing like
I just always used they. Already understanding of the gender as a spectrum at 8 years old.
No, I more just meant like I was talking to some of my trans friends, and I was just like, was that something that ever came like did you ever think of Bugsy as like someone who could like did Bugsy ever inspire anyone growing up being like, wow, maybe I could look like that? Like that just doesn't seem like a character that would inspire people. That's where I was just like, I wonder if that ever happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pokemon that could be like gender goals for different people. Bugsy is Bugsy. That's what I'm saying. Like, gender goals.
Yeah, like never mind Jesse and James.
Somebody
just,
out
damn,
there.
Bugsy.
Yeah, right. Like ignore Jesse. Well, anyway, ignore most of the. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Ignore me out for the time being played by a trans woman. Like, just throw all that out the window.
Right. Yeah. Maddie Blostein and Ion.
Yeah.
But Bugsy though, I get it, John. Bugsy could have been someone's awakening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was just questioning, like, is this something that seems like it? And I actually got some responses like, yeah, no, for sure. And I was like, yeah, like, you know, like,
okay.
I mean, that, like, again, you know, that just goes to show what I know and don't know as a cis dude. But, you know, it's just, you know, it's a fun enough story. But at the same time, I kind of think I made a mistake jumping into it because I have other things that I want to read, and I still have so much of this to read. Like, it goes up to fucking Sword and Shield.
That's got to be still. That's your One Piece.
It kind of is the thing.
No, yeah, like I think taking it like smooth and slow is probably going to be the best way to go about it, or even just being like, you know what, I just got to Gold and Silver, let me like take this for a bit. As soon as we hit Hoenn, maybe have that as like your stopping point. Not even like hard stopping point, but it's like, all right, is there anything else out like right now that I got to get? And if not,
there's just a couple of things that I'm like, okay, I want to read it because. Like, honestly, I started reading Pokemon Adventures because, I read stuff, I kind of just, like, will read, like, a chapter or two while I'm at work if it's slow. And so, I didn't want to pick anything that was, you know, too adult. Like, I have Berserk on here, and, like, I know that some of my coworkers would just be like, oh, yeah, Berserk, cool. But, like, you know, if I'm flipping through it and I flip on a titty, I don't want to have to explain it to one of my bosses. But, like, you know, I got, like... There's stuff on here that I want to check out. They just announced the anime adaptation for Dandadan, and I'm like, I know a lot of people who really love that manga. So I
also by Science Star, that's another one.
Also Science Star, yeah, and Sakamoto Days as well. Like I'm pretty sure that there's rumors of that getting an anime. And Dead Demons DDDD Destruction.
Oh, fun.
That's getting a couple of movies, I think is what they're doing for that.
Something like that. Blue Box got a adaptation teased. They're doing a bit of the Makoto Shinkai kind of look, which is it's whatever. Blue Box has much more of, I would say, like a watercolor aesthetic to it, which is you know, the way that it, like, you can see it on panel versus what they might be going for. It could leave you wanting a little bit more.
Right.
As soon as we get Akane Banashi, though, that's where we're locked in.
Yeah.
Give me the Akane Banashi adaptation. Give me the Shoha Shoten adaptation. That's when we're fucking cooking. And also, of course, Kagurabachi, the king, as it were.
Yeah, and really, it's just I think I'll probably do what you said. Is like, maybe I'll just read up through Gold and Silver and Crystal, and then once I get to Gen 3, I'll take a break and read something else. That's probably a good idea. But then, like, you know, other stuff that I've been keeping up on, you know, Chainsaw Man has just been really good recently. You know, like it feels weird, you know, talking about it because it's so divorced from what. Like, I do not want to deride people who are like anime only, you know? I don't know who's listening who may have just watched the anime for Chainsaw Man and is just waiting for the rest of it. So it's kind of hard to talk about what's going on in part 2 because if you are like anime only, like if I start talking about shit, it's so far off from everything else that went on even in part 1. Like I feel like even just like talking about spoilery stuff for part 1, like it's so separate. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to tackle that. So I'm just kind of sitting there and just being like, damn, Chainsaw Man is crazy good this chapter. Like, that's all I can really do. It's just because it is though. Like I love all the new character dynamics and I love how Denji has evolved and I love the sort of shift to other main characters and I think it's only getting better.
I think for me it's been like a bit of an up and down, not like to use the fabled classic, we're so back, it's so over, bros. It's been a very middling of like, we're so back in bros, where there have been some chapters that are much more exposition, and the amount of exposition that is present in part 2 can be...
It's a lot more, definitely.
It can be staggering at points because of the fact that, I would not say it is a full-on spoiler to, say this. Part 1 very much is about, like, hey, here's Denji. Here's this character that is witnessing the world we are also witnessing in a very particular way, and for a lot of firsts, given the conceit of, this new life that he has, this new lease on life. Part 2 deviates from that a bit. Still, I wouldn't say this is a spoiler. Like, Denji is still around, but he is now having to be around other people. And if part 1 was sort of just seeing, like, Denji, the person, and how does he react to just, learning about people, Act 2 is here people needing to work alongside Denji and just how exactly the interplay between that connection leads to the conflicts or connections or alliances that we see pop up in the actual space of what it is that part 2 wants to start talking about. But then, I don't know, sometimes it feels like Fujimoto is sort of just doing stuff for the sake of, technically it's a battle manga, technically it's a shonen manga, and it's not bad, but it definitely shows where there can be weaknesses in having to constantly create like a weekly serialized manga. If you have more to go off of for one-shots or like monthly releases or bi-weekly releases, it's definitely something where it feels like the scheduling is, if not like, probably not like a matter of like, oh my god, Fujimoto is gonna die if he's continuing to panel at this rate. His paneling is unique and consistent. It never feels like he's pushing himself to do something so like over the top, you know what I mean? Like, it is crude in a way where I know Fujimoto is still giving himself time to live his life. But the rate at which these ideas have to like come through and like present something, that I think is taking the bigger toll. Because there are some chapters where it is just like, there's cool action, but it's missing the parts that make Chainsaw Man such a fun read or such an impactful read. It's like, it's good from a base standpoint, but it's not necessarily the thing that, makes people say, damn, Chainsaw Man was crazy good this week.
I think it's a very different story from what it originally was, and that is a bit weird for a lot of folks, and I totally get it. But yeah, it's just, I think it's cool. I think it's really good. What else? So I am all caught up on the Bocchi manga, as well as the Hiroi spinoff. I like it, but I am absolutely in the camp where I think the anime makes that story shine a lot more. At least that first bit. Like, once it gets into its stride, I think Bocchi is a great story, but, I think those first bits were elevated quite a bit by the anime. But I don't think that this should be a 4 coma. It is so weird reading that story as a 4 coma. Like I feel like it would be a lot better if it was just a more standard panel manga. I don't know why it's stylized like that. It's very weird, but
yeah,
it's good. I mean, yeah, that's the crazy thing too. Is like that spin-off, like the fucking Hiroi spin-off that is about the fucking silly drunk lady, is a standard paneled manga. Very bizarre, but still good. Still good stories. Still great characters. I still love everyone in those. It is just making me more excited for the rest of it to be animated, though, for sure. They wrapped up the first part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG stories. They did the big Sky Striker stuff. It was fine, it was cool to see like the characters from the cards, but it also kind of felt like they went on for a bit longer and also didn't really like give enough character to the characters. At some point, it kind of became apparent they were just like, okay, well, we came up with this character and we came up with this ability that can kind of map to a card effect, and then the card comes out in that volume of the magazine. So it's one of those things where it's like I read the manga and I'm like, all right, I mean, this is fine, but then I see the card that is based off of it, I'm like, oh shit, that's cool, because it's cooler like in the context of the game than in just straight up the manga. Like, for example, one of the last things they did was like, like Ray and Rose are these two, the last two humans, and they were butting heads and all that, but then they finally team up, and at the end of the manga, they do like a big super attack. And so in the card game, there is they put out a card that is basically their super attack, but as like a link monster, and you could summon it by tributing a light monster and a dark monster, because Ray is light and Rose is dark, and then if they attack, then they can destroy all monsters on your opponent's field because it's a big super attack. It's made way cooler with the context of the game. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I still liked it overall, and I am looking forward to seeing what they're going to adapt next. There's a bunch of like official Yu-Gi-Oh lores. Like the famous dual terminal, and like the Albaz and the fucking World Legacy and all that. And like that would be cool if they drew those. But I would love for them to just pick some other random shit and just go for it. Like, I don't know. I mean, I could list off whatever the fuck, but I would just love for them to just do whatever, and I want to see what's up. And then the last thing that I'll talk about, though, real quick, is this is a weird one. I saw someone recommend it on Twitter. I don't even remember who the fuck. But I read through what is available of Spider-Man Octopus Girl.
No. Oh, no.
Which, I will be honest, it sounds kind of fucky.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's just pretty cute.
Okay. Even knowing the actual premise, it still sounds pretty fucky, but so far it's like, okay, it's not twisted.
Yes, it's not twisted.
Okay.
So the premise is that Doc Ock is fighting Spider-Man, and he falls off a building, and he doesn't have his octopus arms. Like, the arms got ripped off. So he basically goes, all right, I got like 3 seconds left to live. I'm going to transfer my body, or I'm going to transfer my mind over to a new body, so I can fight Spider-Man once again. And so he tries to do that, but he accidentally like gets like transferred over into like a little girl in a coma's brain because she was like getting like some sort of therapy. And so now Dr. Octopus is like living in this little girl's brain, and it's just about him being this like out of touch weird old dude who is angry at everybody, like butting heads with this little girl who doesn't really have any friends and is ostracized and like bullied and stuff, but she still wants to see good in people. And so there's like, you know, the bit where like Doc Ock is just like, dude, you should just fucking kill these bullies, like show them that you're superior. And she's like, no, like I don't want to, that's awful, but maybe I can stand up for myself a little bit. So like they're kind of playing off each other, where like him being so like headstrong is helping her a little bit, but also her being, you know, a nice little girl is also like reining him in a little bit, and he's not just like he's not as like evil scientist mode as he always is. But it's cute. Like it's just a cute little story. I think there's only like 11 chapters out.
Okay, so
9.
he there are two different minds just coexisting in the same body. So he didn't completely reincarnate as a young girl in Japan. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is still weird, but like, okay, that's a very different.
It is weird, yeah, but it's still kind of cute in a way. Like he basically just like makes her octopus arms that she can that like when they like swap places.
Yeah.
That he can use and shit. And there's like a magical girl, Spider-Man girl that shows up that and you know, they kind of butt heads a little bit, but they also just recently had Superior Octopus show up, which is like, if you know, like the Superior Spider-Man story, and then like all that stuff. I mean, this is kind of what it's based on, because that whole story was like Doc Ock.
I was gonna say, yeah,
over Peter Parker's body.
Just like, I'm so good at this, I could rock this shit.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's playing off of that, where instead of it being like, oh, I'm gonna be the better Spider-Man, it's just like, I need to get back to my body because this is wild. But also like, he's, you know, he's getting filtered down a little bit because he's just like, you know what, this I have to share my brain with a normal person, you know, like, even if they are just like a little girl, it's just like it's
why is this person I'm associated with simply not the best and having everyone kissing their feet? We have to change something about that.
Yeah,
which I think
he wants to push her to yeah.
I think that is a fun way to use Doc Ock as a character. Like, honestly, every modern interpretation of Doc Ock as this like egomaniac, but in a way that like can either be, you know, full on narcissistic, self-indulgent, just incapable of seeing the error of his own ways, which like played a little bit with like in like the Marvel games. Here it's a fun interpretation of like, yeah, no, I know eventually I'll figure this out, but if I gotta deal with you and you're getting shit on, we gotta figure out a way to not get you shit on. That is very funny to hear. As sort of like the two extreme, like how exactly does, you know, Otto Octavius do good? Well, you gotta give him stakes. The stakes being, is your reputation in danger?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much immediately like, okay, I think this is in good hands when they first show him and he's got the bowl cut. Like, that tells me, all right, y'all got that classic Doc Ock in mind here, you know, like that's what you're playing with. And then because he needs to feel comfortable in like he gives her a haircut that's the bowl cut too. So it's just like, so she's rocking the fucking Doc Ock bowl cut just because he's like, this is the perfect haircut. No one will say anything about your hair if you look like this. Like, it's just, yeah, he's sniffing his own farts the whole time. But it's just, it's fun, you know. Like, there's only 9 chapters. They're still going. Like, they did like a chapter 8.5 that was just straight up like the mangaka like drawing the fucking characters for the Marvels, and I was just sitting there like, I'm so sorry.
Hey man, I'm hearing some good things about it, but also Hideo Kojima did just say, I watched the Marvels.
That's fine, but yeah, like, it's probably like, oh, it's doing... No one knows about, like, the international numbers are so bad. Like, it just basically doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, did it even ship out to international theaters? What happened? Yeah,
I mean,
that's rough.
like, reading this, honestly, like, I feel like I would almost rather have this mangaka just write, like I could see them doing, like, a Miss Marvel story.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, from what you described, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. Like, just having, like, this dumb humor, like, applied to it. Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend it to anyone pretty much. Like I think it's a fun time. I bet you would enjoy it, Elvie. Mm-hmm. But you have been reading some stuff, Elvie, if you wish to discuss that.
Yes. I for some reason I just like I might as well read this because I keep putting off doing it because this was the anime adaptation of Way of a House Husband was like. Oh my gosh, it was 2 years ago at this point. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yeah. And, everyone immediately complained, being like, this sucks. There's barely animation in it, which is true, right? That is true. That is sadly true. It is
much more of like a motion comic.
Yeah, it's just a motion comic, where they literally just drew, and still beautiful, still decent. Like, they just drew panel to panel like artwork from the manga. As I'm reading it now, they literally did just do that, and they added some like animation. Like there's some lip syncing, but a lot of times it is just weird stills and voice acting over it. It's like, oh man, that's like what's going on here? So I'm like, okay, I'll read the manga eventually. That's what people keep saying, and I did. I finally did. For some reason, my library, my local library's got all of Fruits Basket. They got the modern omnibuses, right? They don't have like the original volumes, which I recall selling a long time ago when I had the original like individual like volumes and stuff, but I sold on eBay a long time ago. They got the One Piece, they got the mainstream hits the kids like. They got Dragon Ball, they got Naruto and all that. Not Boruto. No, they have Boruto. Yes, they do have Boruto. They have both. They have Naruto and Boruto. But they also had The Way of the House Husband. They're like up to date. Like they have the complete up to date English. Like they're up to volume like 10. And I'm like, okay. So I actually just burnt through all of that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And yeah, it's a one joke series, and that's okay. That's like okay. I'm like, I don't need to think right now. It's fine. Which yeah, if just to repeat what the premise is this ex-Yakuza member, Tatsu. He's a stay-at-home husband. He's just a stay-at-home homemaker, while his wife is like a designer for some like she's like a decently high, like it's implied like, yeah, she's like high paying for to support both of them, like corporate job. She's like a designer for like a firm or something, like some sort of white collar place, right? Named Miku, right? And yeah, it's just the antics he goes through every day, where he's either misinterpreting things or reinterpreting things, like with the hardened Yakuza mindset he has from like all the like violence and hard boiled stuff he went through and shit in his past life. And applying that to like his homemaking skills and encounters with everyday people. I think his relationship with his wife is like the most interesting thing. And yeah, like again, to circle back to the anime criticism, yeah, and reading the manga is like, yeah, you might as well just do that. Like the artwork is very gorgeous. Like it's very nice and solid and like very consistent too. It's like the most consistent art style I feel like in terms of like this mangaka doesn't like falter when it comes to keeping things on model. And I think looking and like lingering on panels really emphasizes the humor, and like as much as they're gags that are predictable, it's like, oh, okay, you're really there for an artwork too. But yeah, like I think the most interesting aspect in the manga is like in the first couple of volumes, it really just beats the drum of like kind of again stringing along one joke where like he Tatsu, he's like, oh, I gotta go to the groceries or do cooking. And he treats it like he's about to kill someone. But of course the output, as we see at the final endpoint, he's like, he just makes a beautiful, like amazing home cooked meal for his wife coming home from a long day at work. And he sincerely just loves and respects her. And, you know, he's meeting other former gang members who are like, you know, what you know, like, what the hell happened to you or whatever. Or like, you know, like he pulls in like one guy, you know, one protege he used to work with and is trying to teach him all this homemaking ways. And he still doesn't quite get it. Like he goes to his apartment and he tries to help him on how to do his own laundry and all that. And they keep framing it as like some dangerous mission and stuff. Again, a lot of jokes over like, people misinterpreting what they're saying as being drugs when no, they're talking about like recipes and things. So again, just the same joke, and it's like fine, you know. But yeah, I think the dynamic between him and his wife is like bizarrely like very interesting. Like, and I don't think I've seen a relationship like this like depicted in any like manga I've read, at least recently, where like. Yeah, again, this dynamic of like him not being like a stereotypical, like, you know. Sometimes, unfortunately, like, right, fiction goes through, like, the extreme ends of, like, a guy just being whipped, which is also not great, right? It kind of feeds into, like, toxic masculinity stereotypes. But he just kind of stays himself, right? He just like, he doesn't change for her. He's just, and she's, like, fine with that. Like, she knew what she was getting into, Miku, again, the wife. And they keep dragging along. They keep, like, waving this carrot around, like, over their backstory of how they met. Like, they keep showing these brief, like, insights over, like, her finding him, like, in a really shit beat up state and her carrying him. Like, the two, like, up to the current volume, they still haven't, like, properly explored, like, how they met. Like, they keep dragging along, you know. This manga is, like, of course, like, going through all the ideas of how long they can stretch the one joke before they feel the need to get to that, I guess. But, like, yeah, they have, like, a very nice mutual relationship where, like, she also is into, like, nerdy interest. Right, a lot of series does this, right, where they parody and don't name things directly to avoid, like, you know, like, infringement, but also as, like, a joke. Like, she's into, like, a series that's a parody of, like, Pretty Cure, but it's called Polycure. So the Precure Girl are cops. It's like insane. So they look like the Pre-Girls, but they're like, you know, they kind of look like the Officer, you know, they look like like Officer Jenny, right? Like Pokemon. Like it's just that sort of like weird, archetypal, old-fashioned policewoman outfit with with the cap and everything. It's like, okay. And the villains, their monsters of the week is the Yakuza. So there's this weird jarring juxtaposition where she's watching and consuming the show she likes, but her husband was and is still someone kind of affiliated with people of the Yakuza. And they don't really unpack it, but I think it's just a very interesting, right, like contrast. And yet he always goes out of the way to think about her and like getting her gifts. Like, oh my gosh, like, there's this weird lottery gift thing where we have to buy like all this a certain amount of things at this bookstore, and for her, I'm gonna get oh wait, no, what I remember is that there was a flyer. It reminds me a lot of the Pokemon card dilemma that happened a year ago, actually, at Target. And the Target has where, like, oh, if you say the passphrase to an employee, they will give you a special, like, foil card of, like, a Polycure foil card or something. And, like, he goes out his way to do that for her. Yeah, it's just very strange. Like, their dynamic is so interesting and so grounded. Like, they're not, like, gushy in love with each other or something. It's very, like, it's very subdued. Like, they clearly are in a relationship, but they don't, the way it's depicted is not overly affectionate, and it seems very, like, symbiotic in a lot of ways, where she's the one bringing the bread home, and he really respects that, and, like, he does all he can for her, right? So I really appreciate that, where it doesn't need to, like, because they're already, like, you know, he's already depicted as an extreme case, you know, he's like, oh yeah, like, he still has, like, his Yakuza qualities and all that, and what have you. And yeah, the whole series is about juxtaposition and, like, not judging appearances. Like, again, like I said, like, he's meeting ex-Yakuza members, and, like, running into people still, like, in that crime world and etc. And all of these guys having this tough guy demeanor, but in reality, they have, like, this soft underbelly. Like, you know, he meets up, like, with an old, like, person of seniority that is also technically retired, but he still respects him, and they meet up occasionally. But he has this very cute dog, and, like, he gushes over the dog and stuff a lot, so, you know, that's when he softens up. One of my favorite characters, too, in the series is, like, this widow of a mob boss, and, like, she has to, like, now, you know, when her husband died, you know, like, the funds ran out, right? But she still is, like, tied to the code of, like, you know, their gang and whatnot. So she's like, I still need to financially support all these guys, and like these people are my found family, all that, right? And so they now like work and run like they now like work at like a convenience mart. So when the main character like runs into her for the first time, it's like a very funny dynamic where they're trying to like outwit each other in terms of comparing price. Like, she's trying to like get commission from him or something. What they do, like she's a retail employee trying to get commission from him and trying to like outbid him and trying to just to buy groceries. And that was pretty funny. And yeah, it's just a nice, it's just a nice like funny series. Like there's nothing more to it. It's also funny. They keep dragging along like the reader over like, okay, how did they get married? Which is very obvious. Like pull over. Like I gotta keep trading out ideas as long as it keeps going. Also, though, like mangaka's very obviously also fond of like dogs. He mentions a lot like his Shiba Inu all the time in notes, and that's like the inspiration of like the Shiba Inu like branding, like on the apron of the main character that he wears all the time. So that makes a lot of sense. And also why the pets in the series too are very funny and very cute. Like they always have like a little side forecoma with their cat who's like exploring like who sometimes wanders outside and just meets other pets in the neighborhood and stuff and interacts with other animals, which is very cute. So yeah, just a very interestingly wholesome series. So yeah.
For sure. Before we wrap up, Maverick, is there anything that you want to talk about, or should we just give Elvie her last little bit here?
Nah, I've just been, again, like, Xenoblade 2 has been taking up my time, so anything else...
I get it.
Anything else I would have caught up on, I could have tried and catch up on stuff today, but it was all just getting through Fujiko, so next time probably should be caught up.
Sure.
We might be getting to the end of some stuff too by the next episode. Who knows?
Yeah, Elvie, hit us with this last thing, and then we can wrap up and go home.
So I don't want to stir further flames into what is anime discourse, but related to what we were just talking about moments ago, Blue Eye Samurai is interesting. Blue Eye Samurai is interesting. This is a Netflix series. It's a CGI like 2.5 anime series. It's very good, I'll say up front. But Hideo Kojima is once again coming into our mind palace because, like, as per our previous conversations about Licorice Recoil, press has been quoting him as like quoting Hideo Kojima like in love with Blue Eye Samurai and saying like, oh my, and calling it an anime apparently, unclear, unverified, but hey, so that's what I'm talking about now. But per our past conversations over Licorice Recoil and agree with Rose, maybe this is Hideo Kojima might be able to write better women. I think this is his moment.
Oh, wow.
Like, we got Licorice Recoil, he's liking Blue Eye Samurai, something's happening, something's cracking him. So we gotta take advantage of this. So this is my endorsement of this series. Even though it's technically not anime, but people are saying it's an anime, let's not get in there, but I'm gonna talk about this series, because I think it also does go into interesting territory that now I'm realizing over, like, well, okay, this is a series not made in Japan, but it's made by, like, members of, like, the Asian diaspora. So, like, does that, like, right, that's getting interesting territory over, like, those semantics, right? And it's a heavily, like, clearly Japanese influence based in Japan story, with a Japanese, like, with one of the showrunners being Japanese herself. And the premise, it revolves around, a half-white, half-Japanese woman who is basically on a quest for revenge over trying to find her biological father. This is during the Edo period. This is around the era of, like, the shogunate, like, slowly, the shogunate in power, having a great influence in, like, the hierarchy of society. And yeah, just deep, like, and as a result, like, we like, exploring heavily up front over, like, the deep xenophobia and racism, and the society around this time, for various reasons in regards to, like, of course, like, just bad, just with ill intent initially, malicious intent towards, like, xenophobic towards people who look differently and are, are from different, all that. But also, like, the justified, like, rage and, like, concerns against, like, what is, like, basically these foreigners, like, and their malicious intentions over why are they coming to Japan and what's going on. And right around this time, that all that unrest over, like, what are the ulterior motives of this happening. So yeah, Mizu, again, like I said, she's on this journey to get revenge against her biological father, who she believes is a white man, who unfortunately raped her Japanese mother. And she does not know who he is, but all she knows is that he is one of the powerful group of white guys who right now are at some sort of sector in Japanese society that she's trying to find right now and get answers to. And it very much is, like, again, similar to many, like, samurai tales and, like, the wandering samurai tale. Again, I've only seen one episode so far, but it's so good. It really impressed me so far, and it's something I do want to scope out and finish and plan to watch when I saw the trailer for it. But it does a really great job of, I think, immediately not resorting again to what we were talking about in terms of tropes and how a female main character is depicted in regards to her victimization versus her, like, empowerment, and, like, that balance between it, which I think is really cool. No one in the series knows she's a woman. Like, and that's something that was an interesting debate over the series. Like, no one gets it. Like, no one sees it. Like, and like, they sell it really well once you realize clothing in, like, many many sectors of society around this point in time is such a big deal. And that, I think, goes to show, like, how many aspects of this is well thought out, where, like, people just don't, like in the first episode, they show flashbacks of how she came to be so skilled at the sword mastery, and, like, kind of like her mentor that taught her this, and she was orphaned, obviously, right, as I said, and learning through that, and her growing up now in the present day as the series goes through, and how she like, to circle back to the beginning, Fujiko, who uses sexuality as a strategy, as a transaction to, like, get her way and make progress with things. Mizu, on the other hand, is, like, the complete opposite of that, who's very reserved and completely covers herself up. She makes no indicator of any femininity, which is very interesting. And so, again, like, something like period clothing. She does not dress like how does the average woman dress around that point in time. And, we see so many female characters of many different classes in the first episode alone that it's like, once you realize that, it's like, oh, okay, I can see why they don't realize she's a woman, and easily call her out over, like, why are you wearing dressed this way, or why are you holding a sword and stuff like that. And I think that's, like, a very interesting, like, contextual read of that. And yeah, I really like it so far. Again, like, I think they did a good job of generally casting. Again, what I think is interesting, like, how do we categorize something like this where it's a production dominantly made by and spearheaded by, like, the Asian diaspora, and folks who are Asian American, Asian Canadian, like, folks from all over. Masaoka is one of the side characters. He's, like, this kind of, like, very aloof, very naive guy who follows Mizu around and keeps running into her. But she saved his life basically at, like, a horrible. Well, not horrible, but, like, at a restaurant, and he's like, nah, I quit that. I want to just follow you and think you're cool, right? Brenda's song, like, Disney Channel fans, Brenda's song, like, coming back, like, slowly into her acting career. I know she had, like, she's had kids with Macaulay Culkin, so that's kind of been major why she's not been in major, but, like, Brenda Song's a voice actress in this. She's this, like, princess who is, like, caught up in, like, a horrible, like, caught up in an engagement she doesn't want to deal with right now. So she's got, of course, George Takei is in this, of course, because he's just like, hell yeah, I'm, like, fucking 90, but I'm gonna do everything I can. He plays mad. Yeah, right. Like, let's go. Yeah, a lot of like interesting, like, a lot of interesting lesser known names and big names, like, in a nice balance, I think. Like, Maya Erskine is, like, the main character. And I'm actually not familiar with her work. I know she was in Pen 15, but that's it. But she does, like, a really good job in terms of, like, also selling androgyny and places of vulnerability that I know Mizu will have to go into. But yeah, it's a very interesting series. So, again, not quite an anime, but in that weird, blurry, like, what is this, right? And I'm excited to see the rest of it. It's just a good show. It's a good adult animation, right? And I hope to see more of it. And yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for running us through that, and thank you all for listening.
Ah, yes, it's
good
French.
time.
There we go. We're circling back to the French.
Okay.
Most of the animation production is made by a French studio. There you go.
Okay. There we go.
Blue Spirit.
Yes, thank you for all that. Thank you, Maverick, for talking about your stuff, and thank you all for listening. This is a fun episode. Obviously we didn't have Rose with us, so we have a little hole in our hearts, but still a good time was had by all of us who are here. And of course, thank you so much for listening. And if you are subscribed to our Patreon, patreon.com/Gamesline, got to hear this a whole week early before everyone else. I think that's a pretty cool bonus. You also get access to stuff like Clothesline, which is the wrestling podcast that y'all do every once in a while. Maverick and Scott and others. I know that I think Lorelai and Franny do it sometimes.
Yeah, always depends what's going on around the wrestling sphere.
So much is always happening, though.
It's true. I mean, I pay very little attention to it, but I just see people being either super excited or very mad about CM Punk coming back. I guess that's
that's my understanding of wrestling too. Yes. Yeah, it's just like certain names that keep getting mentioned over, like, oh man, I can't believe they're transferring to this, or like, I'm so happy that they're transferred over. It's like, what is going on?
You remember when Metallica had their big blow up about Napster, and how that kind of just ruined any any and all credibility about their status as hardcore guys. Similar is the CM Punk returning to WWE situation, where it's like, ultimately, he's still going to make money. He's still going to be a much more a successful person than I am in terms of just gross domestic earnings per year. But it is very funny to see someone just, 2 years ago have a tirade about, when I was here, my mental health was awful. I was living my worst years. I'm glad to be out of there. And then just go back.
Hey, toxic relationships.
Yeah. No, again, it's I can't even be mad. That's just the hustle. And you know what? That's gonna be happening ad infinitum. That's the reality of it. I'm sure Scott and I will get more in the weeds about it.
And then we also just recently put up that Lies of P podcast. That's hot
off the presses.
Very fresh.
Yeah. Very fresh. So for the next month's show, for when we discuss about something, we decided, because it's the holidays and it's going to be hectic, and there's probably a good chance that our recording will get delayed or put somewhere else, or we'll figure it out. But for now, we're just going to watch a movie. Should be simpler, and it'll be a holiday film because, hey, you know what? There it is. And so the holiday film that is super easy to recommend to everyone, it's the anime holiday movie that everyone brings up, Tokyo Godfathers. Just watch it for the show. We'll do it. Let's do it. I haven't seen it yet, so this will be a good excuse to watch it. And hopefully everyone else enjoys it for the holidays. So yeah, thanks again for listening, everybody. If you want to send us questions, it's gamesline.tumblr.com/ask. And or opinions as well. We just want to hear what you've been up to. Tell us what you've been reading or watching, anime or manga. That's what we want. We want y'all to have fun with us. So that should do it. Thanks for listening to Unlimited Railworks, and we'll be back hopefully in 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes. And that'll be it. We'll see you soon. Have a good one.